Let's get right into it. Today we're diving deep into a massive 24-tranche research report covering a piece of tech called Axon Fusus. What we're really doing here is unpacking the invisible technological nervous system that is fundamentally reshaping our cities as we speak.
So think about this. What actually happens when thousands of completely isolated cameras suddenly learn how to talk to each other? How does modern policing shift when public cameras, private security feeds, and mobile devices aren't siloed anymore, but instead get wired directly into one massive, centralized brain? It's a pretty wild concept, right?
To figure that out, we're going to trace the entire ecosystem today. We'll look at how these networks form, how public and private feeds actually connect, the hardware and cloud architecture making it happen, what this looks like live in a dispatch center, and finally, what it all means for governance and civil rights.
Okay, part 1. The surveillance integration ecosystem, moving from fragments to a fully connected network.
First off, you gotta understand that Fusus is not just some new camera you bolt onto a street pole. The research describes it as an integration-first institutional capacity platform. Basically, that's just a highly technical way of saying it's the software that stitches everything else together. It takes totally different sources, think police drones, someone's front doorbell camera, a 911 call, license plate readers, and pulls them all onto one single map. It takes total fragmentation and turns it into one clear, common operating picture.
And this tech has blown up incredibly fast. Back in 2021, Fusus was snagging early, relatively small municipal deals, like a $65,000 sole source contract in North Carolina. But just a year later, Axon, the massive company behind police body cams and tasers, launched a strategic partnership with them. And by 2024, Axon just straight up acquired Fusus, folding it completely into their global platform.
To put the sheer scale of that acquisition into perspective, grabbing Fusus added a staggering $7 billion to Axon's total addressable market. That's with a B. Turns out, bridging the gap between public safety agencies and private enterprise video is an absolutely massive business.
Moving on to part 2, connecting public and private cameras and looking at the actual inputs feeding this ecosystem. The inputs here are incredibly diverse. We're talking municipal streets, CCTV, public schools, transit systems, and a whole lot of private business and residential cameras. Plus, it natively pulls in Axon body cameras, police fleet dash cams, and even drone video. Just to give you an idea of the sheer volume, a 2024 oversight report out of Nashville showed nearly 1,000 registered cameras and roughly 300 linked cameras feeding the system in that one city alone. Now, we really need to draw a hard line between two distinct levels of access here. Registration just means the police know you have a camera on your house. If something happens, they still have to come knock on your door and ask for the footage. But live integration? That is persistent live streaming access. Authorized personnel can tap into those live feeds pretty much on demand. The report makes it super clear. We cannot mix these two up because the privacy implications are vastly different.
Which brings us to part 3, Fusus Core and cloud architecture. How do we actually bridge the edge and the cloud?
The best way to think about it is this. Fusus isn't the eyes or ears of the operation. It's the nervous system. The actual neural pathways are physical little boxes called Fusus Core. These sit locally at a business or inside a police department, grab the video from completely disconnected legacy cameras, doesn't matter the manufacturer, securely encode that video and shoot it up to the cloud.
And this hardware scales depending on what a location needs. You've got the Core Lite holding up to 2 days of footage, which is great for a small community setup. Then there's the Pro AI model with an 8 terabyte drive, all the way up to the massive Pro 2.0 using a 22 terabyte external drive for heavy-duty multi-camera integration. These devices handle all the buffering, the network routing, and the encryption locally before a single frame of video even hits the internet.
Once it's through the core, the video hits the cloud. The docs show it uses secure outbound connections to places like AWS GovCloud, but the real linchpin here is identity. User permissions and audit logs in Fusus are inherited directly from Axon evidence. So, if an officer has specific access rights in the digital evidence locker, those exact rights carry over seamlessly to the live Fusus map. And when footage gets saved, it goes right into a repository called Fusus Vault, which syncs straight back to Axon evidence.
Let's look at Section 4, Live Operations and Dispatch. Basically, what does the operational interface actually look like?
All right, so here is exactly how this works in practice, step by step. Step 1, a 911 call or a CAD, computer-aided dispatch event, comes in. Step 2,
The software instantly and automatically surfaces any nearby camera feeds on the map. Step 3, a human operator watches that video and interprets the scene. And Step 4, that operator relays real-time intel directly to the units heading out to the field. And the speed of this is honestly pretty startling. The second a call drops, the system can automatically dock the 4 closest camera feeds right on the screen. An operator can just use their mouse to draw a geofence around an area on the map, and boom, they've instantly got a temporary grid of all the cameras in that radius. Add in a 911 call panel piping in live audio with AI-generated transcripts, and the system can even use Axon Vision to suggest AI-generated detection clips.
But here's the thing. Despite all this lightning-fast automation, the most critical piece of the puzzle is still the human being. It's a human dispatcher who has to interpret those camera angles, read the AI transcript, and make the extremely high-stakes decision on whether an incident actually warrants sending an armed response.
Finally, Part 5. Governance, Evidence, and Civil Rights. Let's look at the permanent impact of temporary live views.
The source documents are very clear on this. The second an operator records a clip, types out a note, or saves one of those temporary geofences, that data persists. What started as a quick, transient live view of a street corner becomes a permanent clip in Fusus' vault. That clip then syncs to evidence.com, landing right in a prosecutor's database long after the physical event is over. Plus, operators can add notes that might completely reframe the context of the original video, and they can share all of this across entirely different government agencies.
As you can imagine, this opens up some massive governance gaps. Take consent, for example. Does a landlord or a property manager have the legal authority to just hand the police live access to cameras that are recording unconsenting tenants or retail workers? And what if a business owner decides to opt out later? Does all the footage they already shared get deleted? Throw in the fact that sharing these feeds with federal task forces can completely bypass local democratic oversight, and that there's no independent way to validate when the AI simply messes up. Well, it's a lot to unpack.
So we're left looking at two very contrasting realities here. On one side, this software undeniably tackles the very real, very dangerous problem of fragmented emergency response. It gives first responders critical context before they even arrive on scene. But on the flip side, the sheer ruthless efficiency of this platform creates an overlapping web of surveillance that just inherently captures the daily lives of uninvolved, unconsenting citizens.
And that brings us right to the core thesis of the report. Simply buying more cameras just gives you a wider view. But taking old legacy cameras, brand new cameras, mobile devices, and AI, and making them all talk to each other in real time, that elevates mere data collection into massive institutional capacity. And as the research warns, it creates a long-term technological dependency for our cities.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. The cameras are already out there. The software is already wiring them together. So the question isn't if this is happening, it's how do we actually govern a nervous system that is already built into the very walls of our cities. Thanks so much for diving into this with me today. Keep asking those tough questions, and I'll catch you in the next one.